You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
TechFan podcast number 509. I'm Tim Robertson, joined by David Cohen. Hello, David.
Hello.
Fun stuff going on in the world right now, all over the place. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a new government here, so
Yeah.
everything
The
is.
Tories are out, huh?
Wow. They're not just out; they were slaughtered.
They were slaughtered. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been following the news. It was pretty brutal.
Even.
But you guys didn't go the populist slash.
Nope.
You know.
Well, we did a bit. There was a populist party led by somebody you may have heard of in America because he's appears with Trump a lot, Nigel Farage.
Oh, that's the guy that wore that little microphone thing on his ear all the time. Yeah, he is. I know who he is.
Is that what he does?
Yeah, every time I see him on a show, he wears one of those microphones that go around his face.
Okay. But he was the guy who effectively instigated Brexit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's worked out well for you guys.
Well, it's worked out terribly, but obviously, much like MAGA Nation, the people who like that sort of stuff, the kind of the pseudo racist, old guys, they will continue to support him. So he won a seat, which is the first time in 20 years or so that he's actually won. He's actually become an MP. So we have a little bit of populism, and that certainly helps. There was a lot of people who would have voted for Tories, the Conservatives, who voted for them instead. So that helped because of the way our system works. That helps Labour to win because our system is not quite as well. It's a little bit like the electoral college, really. Is that you?
Yeah, but you don't have a duopoly there like we do.
Well, we have less of a duopoly than we used to because it used to be literally just Labour and Conservatives. Now we have these other small parties who do split the vote and make some gains, and that's one of the reasons why the Conservative. It was really a case this time of not everyone voting for Labour, but people just not wanting to vote for the Conservatives because they were so disliked. And they've there's a lot of people who've lost their jobs over the weekend. So. There we go.
Sometimes you need to shake things up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, quite a lot of people have been saying, big, massive change in politics. Labour hasn't won for 14 years, and they normally don't win very often. And yet within a day, we'd done a complete transition of power from one party to another without anybody having to hit anybody. So that was nice.
Yeah. We don't do that in America anymore.
No, I don't.
Somebody loses, and then he says it was cheated, and it was all this fraud. There's no evidence, but it doesn't matter. His rabid followers believe, okay, it's cheating. Yeah. We're used to it now. But I think he's probably going to win, to be honest, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all America. We're dumb.
Yeah.
So. We got the choice of one guy who could barely stay awake and one guy who lies about everything. It's amazing that we have basically two 80-year-olds. Both our parties are so corrupt; it's just disgusting.
It is kind of surprising, really, but there we go.
No, it's not. Old white men in power too long.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one take, definitely. Yeah.
Anyways, let's get on to something that's not so divisive, and that's I did two big tech things since the last show.
Okay.
The last show that we did, obviously, I hadn't gone to New York yet. Yeah, that was going to be, the following week, and we went to New York and blah blah blah. And I talked about that on Geeks Pub. So if you guys want to hear anything about that, listen to the last Geeks Pub. But one of the problems was about, I'm going to say 3 days before we left, I couldn't log into my home security app. Now, when I say home security, I'm not talking about the alarm system. I'm talking about my cameras. And it's called Scene Tech, this company. It was free initially, but I bought a couple extra cameras. It works with a router. I can look at stuff on my phone. The problem was, though, that if I was logged into the app, no one else could be logged in. So if Julie wanted to check anything, she'd have to log in. And then the next time I went to check in, what's going on, I would be logged out. It's like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
But, I was invested. I had 4 cameras running, one for the driveway, 2 in the front, and then 1 in the back deck. So it didn't cost anything on a monthly basis. You just pay for the hardware. Well, all of a sudden the app stopped working. And a little bit of sleuthing turns out that the company pretty much went under.
Yep.
And so all my equipment is bricked. It does nothing. You can't even access it like just on Wi-Fi locally. You can't do anything.
Well, yeah, because everybody loves the cloud. Everybody loves the centralization. But obviously you struggle then if the company, for one reason or another, stops supporting that stuff.
It's one thing if the system would have stopped 2 months ago when, somebody's almost always home. It's another when we're leaving for New York.
Well, yeah, obviously I'm sure they didn't wind the company up deliberately to annoy you.
I kind of wonder.
So you left with the problem.
Left with the problem, came back with a solution. I did quite a bit of research before I pulled the trigger. I wasn't just going to buy the cheapest thing I could find, obviously, nor was I going to buy the most expensive that has, massively expensive subscription cloud services. And what I ended up with was Blink. So Blink is, I believe they're owned by Amazon now.
They are, yeah.
And I did a lot of research before I decided I was going to go with Blink. I spent $400 for a 5-pack. So I have 3 cameras on the front now, 1 in the driveway, 1 in the back. And it's easy to, add more cameras. It's super simple. They're not rechargeable cameras, so we'll see how long they last on, I think it's 2 AA batteries. They say they last a long time, but we'll see. I like there is a subscription fee, but it's not expensive. I think it's like $10 a month, something like that. Mm-hmm. But multiple people can be logged in at the same time. I downloaded the iPhone app on my Mac, so I can look at it on my Mac. I also got an Echo Show for the kitchen, so Julie can just basically tell Alexa to show what's at the front door or any of the cameras, and it just works. And so far, so good. The picture quality is really good compared to my last cameras. Is it the best? No, but it's good enough for what we're needing. I think it's 720. I think they say it's 1080p, but it's totally not 1080p. I don't care what they say.
Yeah. You know what? There's a little kind of arms race going on with cameras for security, and now people, particularly all the Chinese companies, are touting 4K and all this sort of thing. And you know what? The problem is, it doesn't really matter.
No,
because the people who appear on your cameras who don't want to be seen, who are the criminals, cover their faces anyway. You can't see who they are. Yeah, they'll wear a big coat and they'll cover their face. They'll have a mask on. So you could have 12K and it wouldn't matter a jot in terms of identifying anybody.
No.
So you might as well just stick with something. And let's face it, for security camera, 720p or 1080p, is so much better than the grainy security video we used to have that it doesn't matter if it's better than that.
It's the quality's pretty good. The Blink software is decent. I'll say that. It's supposed to differentiate between people and dogs and cats, but the cats around my house keep setting it off when the system's armed. It does have preferences that you can turn it on and off automatically, which I do. Mm-hmm. Mine's armed from like 9:30 at night to 7:30 in the morning. And then when it's not armed, it's not actively giving you updates that something's going on the porch. Because somebody's home at that point. And if someone leaves, they can just log into the app and click the button and they're good to go. I found out that I do have a raccoon family in the area too. And they visit pretty much on a daily basis. So that's always nice. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of neat. I can pull up, like I just clicked. Okay, so Julie went outside for some reason at 12:39 a.m. I forgot to put the bricks back on the cat food. It's because the raccoons figured out how to open the cat food container.
Right.
So we put bricks on top of it now.
Yeah.
And I keep forgetting to put them back on after I feed them. So there's that.
There you go. And now there's evidence of your failure.
Yes. She can go out there and fix it at 12:39 a.m.
That you paid for. Well done.
Yeah. Well, I try.
Yeah. So there's a slight weird thing with Amazon because they also own Ring. And Ring is effectively a competitive product to Blink. It's kind of weird. So I have Ring stuff. So I have a doorbell, and then we have a floodlight with camera on the back wall that covers the garden. I don't think. I also have a camera for the side that I've never put up, and I'm glad I haven't put it up because now we're moving. That actually had a solar
Charger.
thing to charge it.
Yeah.
So you didn't need to wire it up. I mean, the good thing, I don't know. I take it the Blink stuff is all wireless.
Yes.
Yeah. So the the Ring stuff is as well, and it's basically exactly the same deal. I think the Ring stuff is a little bit more expensive. But the Ring stuff is the same. You pay a not very big subscription to access.
I think mine keeps it for 30 days in the cloud before it deletes it, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't need something from 4 months ago, cats walking across my front yard.
And the subscription gives you access to effectively unlimited storage for as many devices as you own.
Yes.
That 30-day retention and allow multiple people to log into it, and much the same as yours, it's got all the Alexa integration. We also have an Echo Show in the kitchen, and we have one in the bedroom because we're currently on 3 stories, so that we can see the cameras when. When somebody rings the doorbell, they immediately pop up on the cameras on the screen, so you can see who it is, and you can speak to them and all of that. So, but it's kind of odd that they have this these competing products.
Well, they bought both the companies, so.
Well, yeah, but you'd have thought they kind of roll them together into a single line rather than.
No, they want to
just keep
offer
them
the impression of choice when there really isn't any.
Well, I suppose and again even with Amazon, there is a risk with these companies that, one day they will decide that their one or other of them is not worthwhile anymore, and they will close it down, and then all these devices might stop working.
Amazon just did that with they have a commercial security robot they rolled out 7 months ago, something like that, and it's a robot that you can program how it walks, rolls around your building. It has a screen. It's kind of like the Blink software, to be honest. I mean, it looks for motion. It's a pre-programmed route. Obviously, if someone stopped in front of it, it can recognize there's a person there.
Yeah, but it was $2,300. It was
it was $2,300 plus a subscription fee.
Yeah.
And they just bricked it. It's just going to stop working. But they'll offer you a $300 credit, and then you can recycle it through them. That's very nice. I think you do get a refund. I think you get the $2,300 back as well. If you send it back?
I presume so. But
End up
there's
in a
no point
landfill somewhere.
No point. Yeah, there's no point keeping it because obviously it's not going to work. And again, it does bring back this thing. It's kind of frustrating with the smarts these things have in them, that you can't do anything with them without the backing cloud service.
Yep.
Well,
we'll see what hackers can do with the shit, but.
Well, yeah, but you shouldn't really need to hack them, should you? You'd think, okay, we're going out of business, so let's just
open source it.
We're shutting the service down. Let's open source the software. Here's a copy of the server software. Go to town, set it up yourself.
I mean, that would be the smart thing to do, but heaven forbid.
Well, yeah, but then you might not buy the replacement from the same company. Exactly. That's the cloud.
It's already
service,
screwed you around once.
Yeah. So. I guess that's where we are, and we're moving house, and my wife keeps saying, well, what do we do about the video, the Ring stuff? She asked me a couple of times. I said, we don't do anything. We just take it with us.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what house it's attached to.
No.
It just keeps working.
Yeah.
So I'll just.
That's the nice thing about wireless, and that was one of my requirements. I was not going to run wires to anything.
Yeah, the only thing I've run wired to was the doorbell because I got sick and tired of having to take it off every couple of months and recharge the battery, because that was a pain in the neck. And obviously during the 12 hours that I was recharging the battery, we didn't have a doorbell. So I
was looking for a rechargeable at first, but remember my last one was, and it used a USB mini, which such a pain. And it was a recessed thing. I could never see it. It took 30 seconds to plug each one in because am I in? No, it's not in. We'll wiggle it this way. I hated it. But these are just 2 AA batteries.
Yeah,
and it touts long life, so we'll see.
Yeah, the problem with the Ring doorbell, the rechargeable one, is that for very good security reasons, they don't make it easy to take the doorbell off the door.
Yeah.
because they don't want them to be able to somebody to be able to rip it off and steal it, and they also don't want somebody to be able to rip it off so you can't see what they then do. So it's very well secured to the door, and then it uses special security screws with a special screwdriver.
You know, thieves have already figured out how to beat that, though.
Yeah, of course they do, because
it's called a hammer.
Yeah, that's thieves' job. And like I said, well, no, they don't even bother doing that because they just cover their faces up, and it doesn't matter what they do on video. So anyway, to take the doorbell off was probably 30, 40 seconds of work with a screwdriver I had to find. And then with very fiddly screws that if I dropped on the floor and they went in the grass, then I lost them
forever.
And then I had to buy new ones. Yeah. So that happened to me a couple of times. And then, as I said, you can't charge the battery off the camera, so off the doorbell. So then you have to take the doorbell away for 12 hours and plug it into your... it was micro USB as well, as far as I remember.
They're awful. Everything should be USB-C now.
Yeah. So eventually I bought a kit to actually wire it in, and I just drilled through the door frame and then found a socket, and it comes with a very long cable, and I routed it around and plugged it in, and life has been much easier since then.
Yeah. So
yeah, all I need to do is take it with me, and the one at the back, and then I can put up the security camera that I haven't used yet as well, and off we go again.
So I'm happy with Blink so far. I've had it for 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks. I'll just say 2 weeks, though. I haven't really found any problems with it yet. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if any of our listeners want to inform us of any problems we're not aware of, please feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I need to add any more. I was thinking about one more in the back to kind of aim the opposite direction, and then one more in the driveway to aim in the opposite direction. But I don't know if I need to.
This is the advantage of these kind of one solution systems, is that you can just add more.
Yeah.
And
mine's the Blink 4 system, by the way, if anyone's wondering.
Right.
It's the latest and greatest.
Yeah. But, that is the beauty. And if you want to add one in a different house or something like that, you can do that too. If you've got elderly relatives you just want to keep an eye on, you can do that too and link it into the same system. It's all
I never thought about that.
Easy.
So I might buy 2 more from my dad's house.
Yeah, just it's up to you to decide whether you want to tell him you're spying on him or not.
Well, spying on him. I'm putting it in the living room. Are you kidding? Yeah, I never thought about that. Location really doesn't matter because it's not using a hub.
No, and some of them actually have speakers on, so you could speak to him through it as well.
Yeah, these do.
Don't scratch that, Dad.
Well, Dad never had internet connection at his house since I moved out in the 90s when I had dial-up. So even that doesn't count, really. I remember playing Warcraft 2, or maybe it was the original Warcraft, over dial-up. Brutal. But because Felix lives in his little upstairs apartment now, my third youngest, or third oldest, it goes either way, they wanted internet, so they have internet there now. So now that I know that they can just add a camera.
Yeah. That's exactly right. What you just said reminds me of something that happened last week. So as I mentioned, we're moving house. We've sold our house. We've bought a new one. We're going through the legal process at the moment. And so yesterday, on Friday, we went to see the new house again. We wanted to take some measurements and just make sure there was nothing we'd missed on the viewing. And the lady we're buying it from she's an elderly lady. She's got some mobility problems. It's too big for her now. And so she's moved into a retirement community, and she had this. She was walking around with a walker, and she had her iPad Mini with her that she said her daughter had bought her. And she said, "Oh, I've got photos of." I think it was something. Leanne asked if we could go and look in the roof space because it's boarded out and lit. And she said, "Oh, we haven't got the ladders for here because we've packed them away already. But I've got a photo." And she was trying to find it on the iPad. She couldn't find it. She was going, "Oh, this is a new one. I really struggle with it. I don't really quite know what I'm doing." And Leanne said to her, she said, "Okay." She said, "How good is the internet here?" And this old lady, she went, "Oh yeah, no, it's really good, really good." And I said afterwards, She just told you she can't use an iPad. Do you think she can give you a rating of how good the internet is? The fact it works at all is all she cares about. Yeah, she has no idea whether it's good internet or bad internet. You know, she's not browsing Reddit and doing YouTube and Twitch streaming.
Right. She's not doing anything that's stressing it at all.
Exactly. So I said, we'll. I mean, this is always the thing when you buy. Certainly in the UK, when you buy a new house, is that you're not guaranteed to get good internet. And as you know, I went from very bad internet in this house to fibre, which is obviously very good. I don't know what I'm going to get yet. So
interesting. Have you looked at to see who the internet providers are there, or is there more than one?
Yeah, no, it's all of them. But the problem is what they can provide depends on the exact specific house. And so I can give them the address and the postcode, and they'll give me guidance. But until I've actually got the phone number associated with the house, I can't get guaranteed. I think it will be, at worst, it'll be better than we had when it was worst here, which was virtually unusable. But I'm not sure I'm going to get the high speed I've got here now.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We move into the house because we need a house all on one level rather than stairs for my wife's mobility. So unfortunately the technological suitability of it has to take a downscale in the ratings versus the fact that it's big and it's flat. So
yeah,
we were talking about, so we were just talking about services being discontinued, and we have one here in our notes where services are being discontinued.
I don't even know what to think. This is weird. So Nike has self-lacing adaptive shoes that
these were inspired by the shoes from Back to the Future.
Right.
Yeah. And apparently you also need an app for those as well, and they're not supporting the app anymore. So people have bought very expensive Nike shoes, $350, $400 shoes, and now half the things you can do with them. Apparently you can still lace and unlace them with a button on the shoe, which is kind of what you expect. I'm surprised these things ever had an app in the first place. But Nike have said they're not doing the app anymore, so all the things that you can customize on these shoes, presumably the fit, all the lights. Some of them have different lights on. You can't do that because that's only being done by the phone.
Well, it will continue to work. It's just you can't move the app to a new phone,
and you can't customize it.
Right. Pick your favorite color now, folks.
The mind boggles, really. You know, I know nobody wants to be supporting any product for a long period of time, and I can't imagine these sneakers sold.
How much does it really cost, though, to maintain that app?
Well, the problem is it's the business approach, because what they do is they hire a coding team to develop the app, right? And then when it's developed, they just them loose. They don't keep them on. It's the traditional long tail of IT,
yep.
Which is, you know, the expensive part is maintaining it after you've developed it. It's not the actual development. And these big businesses don't learn this lesson, and so they go, "Oh yeah, we'll develop it." And then the team that they, even if they approach the company again, there's no guarantee the people who actually developed the thing are still around. And they don't want. They'd rather cut the support rather than maintain it. And they certainly don't specify. Just as we just said before, they don't specify when they're writing up the specification for this project, saying, well, you need to have something that's portable and open source so we can release it in the future if we decide we don't want to support it anymore.
All right.
They'd rather just cut the customers off.
Yep. Shocker.
So, yeah. So, don't... I mean, there's a lesson here, which is if you want to be an early adopter, don't expect it will work forever, because it probably won't. And that's part of the... You know, not only do you pay early adopter costs up front, you've also got to expect that it won't be around forever, and your investment will be thrown away. So basically, you want to be an early adopter, only use throwaway money. Otherwise...
It seems to be the way it is. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
I wouldn't have thought so.
But, I mean, you and I are both tech fans, hence this show. And I don't know if I would consider us early adopters. We kind of are in some respects, but when something new and cool comes out, we're both kind of like, hey, we're going to do that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I've spent a fair amount of early adopter money over the years. I'm probably less prudent than you are, I would say, in terms of the things I pick up. I recognise this very well. But it is frustrating because you just think it would be nice if companies just built that into their business model. You know, if they're going to take a punt on something, it would be nice if they said, well, let's not screw our companies over if this our customers over if this fails. And very often they don't. And sometimes they, when it comes from a very big company, like, for instance, Nike, who, let's face it, are not short of money, it's more irritating because then it's just a business decision that actually didn't have to be made because they could afford to do something different. They just don't want to.
That's true.
And that's when it, obviously if it's a small startup and they go under, you kind of go, well, okay. But if it's a big company, like, we've talked about this many times with Google in particular, where they've cut things off and just basically initially told their customers, oh, sorry, sucks to be you.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
It happens enough that it makes you cautious. Like, do I really want to pay the money for this? Because are they going to support it long term?
Yeah. But especially if you come to, sometimes you come to rely on it. These people we've talked about in the past have had thermostats and things like that, home automation systems that the company's just gone, oh yeah, we're going away, bye. And then they're left with hundreds or thousands, even thousands of dollars of equipment that just is bricked. It's really just really disheartening, and it's not good. And I think one of the flaws of modern tech is it's so cheap, it becomes so disposable that it's very easy for companies to go, oh well, it's only, our customers have only invested a couple of $1,000s. It's not a big deal if we stop supporting it, and that's a lot of money to a lot of people. So.
It is to me.
Yeah.
Speaking of $1,000, I did buy this is something else I was talking about looking into. I've been looking for my next thing. For many years, it was arcades and stuff like that, but you can only take that so far, without buying a building and filling it with arcades and stuff like that, which I don't have any desire to do. But I've been wanting to create something, do something, so I got a 3D printer. I went with the Bambu Lab P1S 3D printer. And I printed a few things so far, and I found a really good YouTube channel where this guy is going through the software, teaching you how to use the software, because that's your interface with the printer. And you really do need desktop software. It's really not compatible with a phone. It needs...
the good thing about the Bambu stuff is that for stuff that's been pre-created, and they have their own website that has people who create stuff for their printers and have modified the files to work well with their printers and everything. You can use the phone to download one of those objects, and provided your printer meets the right specs and you've got the right filament and everything, you can just send it wirelessly to the printer and it will print just as if you were printing a document on a paper printer.
Yep.
And that's really cool, because that makes the printers more useful. But you're right, if you're doing any sort of modification or design of
And you
anything,
almost always have to modify it in some respect.
Yeah, then you need to use the desktop software, what they call the slicer. Good thing about the Bambu one, again, is that it's open source. It's written in... it's not written in proprietary code or anything like that. It's written in combination of Java and Node and stuff like that. It's a web technology thing.
Yes.
So hopefully it has more of a life, and also as well, you can create compatible files for their printers in other open source bits of software as well if you want to. So it's much more open. But we should really describe what this printer is like.
Yeah.
This is a podcast, so people can't see it. So it's a
big box.
a big box, but it has...
I also got the AMS with it, which is a little blur box that sits on top, and it allows you to use you can plug in 4 different filaments. Now, the filaments are the plastic spools that actually create. That's the thing that's making whatever you're printing. And if you don't have multicolor one, you're stuck with printing stuff in the same color unless you want to try swapping out filaments halfway through a print, which generally doesn't work very well.
Well, also as well, this printer line is designed for speed and simplicity. So having the auto switcher really kind of helps that. And there's a big change in what you can do with your prints if you can use multicolor filament.
Yes,
because
it's huge.
You can get a completed object out of the box.
And I think I can have up to 4 AMSs all daisy chained.
Yeah.
So that gives you basically 16 colors that you could print.
Because what the AMS allows the printers to do is actually change the filament. It only has one print head.
Correct.
So what it's capable of doing with the AMS is actually clean out the print head with the color you've been using, and then self-load the next color for the layers, and then it can keep swapping those back and forth to build up the object in the layers that you want to give you the multiple colors. It's a very cool system.
Yep. And in fact, you can have multiple colors on the same layer. It just, the more colors you have, the longer your print's going to take, obviously. And I've kind of become a little bit of a filament whore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that looks like a good deal. Buy it. Ooh, that looks cool. Buy it.
One of the shocker here, right? When Tim told me about this a couple of weeks ago, I was on the website, and people who were listening will remember that they were all on sale.
Yep.
And I couldn't resist. Tim's was $1,000. I bought the entry-level model they make, which was for how good this is. It was stupidly cheap.
Yep.
I think it was like £160.
Yeah, that's cheap.
And this is the AMS, the Bambu Labs A1 Mini,
yep,
which is the one I bought, which effectively is a smaller version of what Tim has. It doesn't have a housing around it. It sits open. The AMS, which I didn't buy because of space reasons, the AMS for the A1 Mini is actually external. So it doesn't sit on top because it doesn't have a frame. So it sits next to it, and it takes a lot more space up. So I decided that certainly I can add that later, but at the moment I would just have a single color printer. But actually, it's got a smaller bed, but effectively it works in much the same way that your bigger one does.
Well, mine's got, the body is all metal except on top is glass, and there's a glass door on the front. It's relatively quiet. I mean, I don't want to pretend that it's silent. It's not.
Well, one of the nice things about these ones is that when you first turn them on, they go through a half-an-hour calibration.
Yep.
And what they do is they actually calibrate out the noise of the motors to make them much, much quieter.
Yes.
And so, mine, when it's running, even though it doesn't have the case to retain some of the noise, it sounds like an old-style plot. You know, the plotters you used to be able to buy?
Yeah.
That would draw on a piece of paper. Yep. Yeah, you can hear it. You can hear a swooshing noise as it moves around because the bed moves and the head moves, but it's not noisy. I mean, it's nothing like.
Well, the bed moving is also a big deal because that was kind of the big innovation in 3D printing in the last few years. Before, the print head itself would be both Y and X axis, so it would go and Z, I guess. It would go up, down, left, right, and side to side. The new ones, the print head is just X and Y, forward, back, left, right, because the bed itself goes up to the print head and then comes down as you're printing. Yeah. And the bed itself gets warm, which is really important for print. So your filament will stick to the bed as you're printing, because if it moves, you're kind of screwed. Yeah. And it's also magnetic. So it has a plate that you're actually printing on, and the plate is removable. I didn't know this at first. I was like, how the hell do I get my thing off of here? I made the mistake of buying a whole bunch of relatively inexpensive filaments in small rolls, and I had to print adapters for them to work in my AMS. Yeah. And the problem is the adapters, I printed 8 of them because I've got 4 spools each, right? So you need 2 on each side. Didn't really work well. I printed the wrong one, so I wasted a whole bunch of filament early on.
And also as well, I've since discovered, since buying it, one of the ways to get best performance from your filament, it has to be very, very dry.
Yep.
If it absorbs the moisture from the air, and if it gets moist, then it doesn't perform as well.
Correct.
And so if you go out and buy a crap load of filament, then you have a problem because you've got a big bulky load of stuff that you need to keep away from humidity. Otherwise you've wasted your investment. So if you buy a crate of filament thinking I'll have enough filament for years, unless you have somewhere where you can desiccate that stuff, you've created a problem for yourself.
I watched what's the guy from Mythbusters,
Adam Savage.
I watched him. It was like one of his newest videos, how he maintains his 3D printer. And he's got one of mine, too. He's got like 2 of mine and then another big one. That he had a dehumidifier running in there, and he was showing how he was using that. And I was like, wow, this is weird that I just got a 3D printer, and he's running the same software and hardware as I am. And at the same time, I just bought mine and learning about it. Learning about it is kind of the funnest part right now. And I'm amazed at some of the stuff this thing... Like, I made a dragon. It's like very popular. People download and print these off. It's fairly large, too, and it says articulating. And it prints it in place. And when you pull it out, it articulates.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have to snap this together or nothing. It just printed like this, and there it is. So
the first thing I printed on mine, my one came with an SD card in it that has some preloaded prints, kind of like, and they give you a sample set of filament, and the idea is that your first print just comes straight off the printer. You don't even need to connect it to the internet if you don't want to or anything like that. And I was astonished with the quality that came off this little thing. So what I printed was one of those kids' toys, where you've got a ripcord, and it spins a thing, and then you have a rotor on top that flies off into the air. Yeah,
I think they call them helicopters.
But it was toy. It's a toy. Anybody looking this and
will know exactly what it is.
Send you a picture, Tim, so you can put it in the show.
You did.
Now, it printed this. All the parts in one print took only about an hour. I took this off the bed and I was astonished. First of all, there's none of the layer lines that you may have seen on 3D printers in the past, because it's fine enough that you just don't get those.
Correct.
So it looked like it'd been made in a factory in white plastic. Yeah. All of the parts were separate on the bed, and I just had to put them together. This included the ripcord, which obviously has little teeth on it. It had a part that's screwed into the bottom with screw lines on, and then the matching screw lines on the cylinder it goes into. Just went in smoothly, like literally they've been made in a factory. And then you put the rotor on top, and you put the ripcord in and pull it, and off it goes. This thing was as good as anything you would buy in a store. And when we were kids, these are the sort of things you would often find in the store for a few bucks.
Yep.
It was good as that, and I made it myself in an hour. And I just basically hit a button. So and setting the printer up was pretty easy.
That was the thing that surprised me. I thought that was going to be a whole day. It was about an hour to put it together. Unbox it and
most of what you're doing there is actually removing bits that have been put in there to protect it during transport. Yeah. And then for me, certainly on my one, there was a couple of bits you had to screw on, like the mount for the filament at the back and that sort of thing. And then, to be honest with you, the hardest part was actually getting because I don't have the AMS, it was getting the filament loaded. That was a little bit tricky.
It's super simple with the AMS.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is with mine, but the problem was I probably hadn't turned the right page on the limited instruction manual.
I was a little surprised at how limited the instructions were. I actually had to look up a couple things online because I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? That doesn't make sense. And I looked up and it's like, it seemed obvious, but I didn't know. Yeah,
I think the thing is they expect you to load the QR code and watch YouTube videos, which is, we're old, we don't do that. Young people, the first thing they do, they don't want to read anything, they want to watch a YouTube video. And I think if we'd done that, we would have been fine. But because we thought, I'll read the paper instruction manual that's in there, we got less quality information. So the first time I ran mine, I thought, it's not printing anything. And I realised that I saw the filament wasn't moving through the printer. I thought, there we go, I haven't loaded it properly. So that was the hardest thing. But yes, you're right, it was about half an hour, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then another half an hour of the machine to self-calibrate. And then once that was done, it was ready to go. And my first job came out, just over an hour after I got the filament loaded. And
it's amazing what you can make in the maker community. Because, like, I'll be honest with you, I am not a sculptor. I'm not gonna.
No.
I've thought about downloading software and trying to make my own stuff, but that's not me. I'm not good at stuff like that. I'd be good if I could modify it, but what you get isn't you can't modify the files. They're print files.
There are places you can go where you can modify them.
I know.
And if you load the print files into the Bambu software, there are some things you can change. You can scale stuff, which is something I'm going to be able to be doing a lot because my print bed is smaller than yours because I got the mini. And yeah, there are plenty of things I can print that for the bigger printers, I just need to print them smaller because I have a smaller space.
Now, when we say this is fast, I don't want people to think that you hit a button an hour later, something comes out. That's anything that's large is...
Yeah.
It's going to take a little more time than that. Like, I've got a full Darth Vader thing that I scaled down 25%, and I'm thinking about printing. Let me see how long. I hit slice and it calculate. What's cool with the slice is you can go left or right or up and down and see. You can watch it in software build up.
Yeah, so you can see how it's going to print.
Right.
It also tells you how long it's going to take,
right.
which is quite innovative. And it also tells you how much filament you're going to need. So you can actually weigh the amount of filament you've got and figure out whether you've got enough.
I'm sorry. This is 50%, and it's 1 day and 6 hours to print it.
Yeah, because the more intricate and complicated it is, the longer it's going to take. But the point to make is that on the printers before they had the moving print beds and all of that stuff would have been like multiple days.
Yes.
Yeah, these are much, much faster. And the other thing is they're much more reliable. You get far fewer failed prints with these than you do with the older style printers, where there's a lot more manual calibration and tweaking. These are pretty much plug and play. And if you're going to do something in the software that it thinks is going to cause a problem, it warns you. So, it knows what filaments you've got loaded in your printer. And
yes and no. If you get the Bambu stuff with the QR code, it reads it, it knows. But if you don't, you have to tell it what it is. That's
right. But the thing is that the print files know what the thing you're making should be printed in. And so if it's aware of what filaments you've got, it will tell you what you need and what you don't. Because some things... There are 3 or 4 different styles of filament of different materials, and some things work better with harder materials, or different types of plastics and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And these printers have got variable temperature print heads. They are capable of dealing with a lot of the stuff that's out there. Look, the idea is with any of these things is most of us don't want to spend too much time tweaking the thing. They just want to get the result because the end result is what you want.
Yeah.
And these really allow you to do it. And I was not surprised that you're pleased with yours because it's $1,000 printer. But I am stunned that for the money I've spent, how good it is.
I am too, but not really. Bambu really does seem to be doing a good job right now. I don't know if I'd call them the Apple of 3D printers, but I kind of think they are at the moment. But this is still a nascent industry. Let's be honest. This is an industry that really isn't ready for prime time for everyone to own one of these. I think this is still way too complex for the average person.
Yeah, when we get to the point that you can buy one in Walmart or Target, just literally plug it in and start using it is when that will happen.
Exactly.
And we're a long way away from that yet. Yeah. But some of the stuff I'm able to do is really impressive. And as well, the advantage of a 3D printer is that, as you said, the community is massive.
Yes.
So you can find people who've made all sorts of things. We're not just dragons and sci-fi stuff and everything like that, though there is plenty of that. There's some amazing one of the things I've started doing is these they remind me of toys from my childhood. They're like models of sci-fi ships and things like that are almost like on a model kit, so they actually print on a frame, you pop the pieces out
and put them together,
and then you put them together, and some of those are really, really cool.
I was looking at a couple of those. What we need to do is chat offline and share some of the sites that we're finding some of the best stuff.
Yeah. But the other thing as well is that from running a house, there's all sorts of times that things break and you think, well, I just need that one part, and if I had that part, I could get this working again.
Well,
With a 3D printer, you can very often very often these things are parts that they always fail in the same way on the same thing. And someone will have gone, well, yeah, here's the replacement part.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like, okay, now you've gone from potentially having to track down on the internet a suitable part and paying through the nose for it to, well, I can just run one of these off, and anytime it breaks, I can have a spare. And to me, that's really kind of the power of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see in the future is ones that could print all sorts of stuff like electronics and anything. So either the controller board goes in your dishwasher or your washing machine, you can print a new one. Yeah, you don't have to go out and buy one and have somebody fit it. You can print a new one, and the idea would be you just undo a couple of screws, take out the old one, and put the new one in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in the future that's where we'll get to with this.
Look up a fidget spiral cone. It's basically like there's a cone and there's a triangle. I printed the triangle. Watching that in action is kind of magic.
There's lots and lots of fidget toys in 3D printing, and most of them they print straight. They basically work straight off the bed. They call it print in place when something doesn't need assembly. So you get two types of model. You get one where it prints all the bits, but you don't have to put them together. Some of them, the more complicated models, and you can get some amazing stuff. You want a fully articulated Iron Man with space for LEDs and stuff like that.
You can do it.
You can do that, but what you might have to do is actually do that in 3 or 4 print runs, 3 or 4 beds as they call it, and then all the pieces you've got, you then have to put them together.
Yep.
And using that, even with a small printer, you can make some astonishing stuff, because as long as any single part is not bigger than the bed of your printer or the volume of your printer, because you've got to think about the height as well, then you can print some really quite big stuff if you don't mind putting the parts together. But the fidget spinners tend to be print in place, which is just like, take it off the bed and it works. And every time you see that, you're amazed at what.
Like I said, I made that dragon, and it's like 2 foot long, and you don't do anything. You pull it out, and it's wiggles around, and you're like, holy crap, this is just printed from plastic right here. I'm stupefied by both how complex it can get and how easy it is to use.
Yeah.
If you're, you're good. If you're good at stuff like this, the spaceship thing, though, I've been thinking about that as well. I was thinking about making a shelf full of little Star Wars, Star Trek, little miniatures. Yeah. The issue is, though, I suck at painting, and you really do have to paint these things if you want them to look right.
Yeah, because obviously even yours with 4 colors, you're not going to get all the intricate little bits of, say,
take a Star Destroyer where it's... Yeah. Just look at the Star Destroyer, okay? It's not just all gray. There's different shades of gray. One plate might be a little bit darker here than... You can't do that with just 4 or even 16. It would take way too long, and it's way too complex. So you got to paint them.
And I say Star Destroyer in terms of color. I mean, it is very, very grey, even though there are variations in the grey. But obviously, if you want to, suppose you want to do the Enterprise D, it has blue bits, it has orange bits, it has white bits, it has letters and numbers and all of these sorts of things all over it in black and everything. And really, a model like that, you would need to add paint to make it look really, really nice.
I watched a YouTube guy, and it started like 4 years ago, and it took him 2 years to finish. And he didn't even do electronics either. There's those who have done that too, with mobility and sound and all this. But he made a full-size R2-D2. And, a full-size R2-D2, you're not printing in one. You're printing all these different pieces, and he did. And he puts it together, and he sands it, and he paints it, and the quality is just amazing. Just amazing. And I'm like, I want a full-size R2-D2. I really do. But I would also want LEDs in it, so the lights light up a little bit and looks a little bit more realistic. But 2 years, I'm not willing to spend two years to make an R2-D2 replica. It just seems that's I think he broke it down. It's like thousands of dollars he spent in filaments and.
Yeah, I think the thing with stuff like that, stuff to display. When I was a kid, I was bought a Revell kit of the three at the time Enterprises. There was the Enterprise USS Enterprise from the original series. There was the one from the movies, and then a much bigger model of the Enterprise D because it was a bigger ship, and it was designed to go on a stand with all three of them, and it was really, really cool. I loved it, and I made it. Now, obviously, the pieces there were pre-printed in the way that they were pre-manufactured in the way that I would print them here. But the hard work in making that model, and I spent many hours on it, was the painting.
Yep.
You had to paint the plastic to the right color, which obviously you could potentially avoid with your 3D printer with the right filament choices. You could print the
you could simplify it anyways.
Yeah, the older ships in white, and then the Enterprise D in a grey or a grey blue. But yeah, it was the decals and the painting that really made them come to life. And yeah, this would be the same. So this isn't necessarily a shortcut to avoiding all of that. You're not going to get something that looks like a toy you'd buy in the store if you want something that looks completely realistic. But you know, if you don't mind about that, and
well, I mean, you're making this thing from nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've got a spool of plastic, and a day later, you've got the Battlestar Galactica. I mean,
yeah. And not only that, some of the things you can make are sort of things which are nice to buy and you would pay good money for in the store, but you can make it yourself. I've made Charlotte of some fantastic Harry Potter bookmarks. She loves bookmarks.
Yep.
There's an amazing wealth of bookmarks you can print, and all of them are really cool. And the sort of thing you would easily pay $5-10 for in a bookstore. And I've been able to print them off myself and give them her. And not only that as well, we sit down and we choose what she wants. And they say, right, I'll do you one of those. Those are very good because they're well disposed, the single colour I have at my disposals. So all of that is good as well. And, it's a lot of fun. And you are relying on the skill of other people, and that's kind of gives it a good crowdsource model. Hopefully one day I'll be good enough to maybe give something back. But we'll see. But yeah, it is definitely fun, and you do feel kind of good that you're able to make something yourself from scratch.
It's feeling, at least temporarily, hopefully long term, because $1,000, that I want to do something niche. That I've been wanting to do something for a long time, and we'll see how this works. We had an older 3D printer that I used a few years ago for a project that Charlotte wanted for school. And we never used it again because it was such a pain in the neck to use. Well, that's what took me so long to get into 3D printing. I was interested right at the beginning, but I would look at the software and the hardware, and I'm like, this is just not there. I'm not a masochist. I'm not going to do that to myself. Yeah, but we're at the point now where it's a lot easier. Yeah,
these things are fully wireless, so they update themselves over the internet.
Yep.
You can send files to them over the wireless. They are just literally so much easier.
I can hit print, go to work, and literally pull up the Bambu app on my phone, and because mine has a camera built in.
Yeah, mine has too.
I can literally look
stop
at
motion. You get stop motion movie of your print, which is also kind of cool.
Yep.
But it means you can see how it's doing.
Yes. And if there's an issue, I can tell Julie to go in and.
Yeah.
Not that she'd be able to do anything, but or if I want to print the same thing again, I could just go, hey, take that out of the printer because I'm going to print something else. It's a fun hobby to get into. But if you're going to get into it, I'd probably suggest getting what David has to begin with to see if you like it. It's a lot cheaper than the route I went. I tend to go, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it all the way in. I'm getting this one. Yeah. Speaking of doing things, it looks like Japan finally are getting rid of the requirements to use floppy disks.
Well, this is where we were talking before about people not supporting things for a long time, but Japan was kind of the other way. So yeah, a lot of their government processes in particular relied on very, very old media, which had never been up because the systems had never been updated.
Yeah.
So up until recently, it wasn't just because you had the option, you had to use submissions on things like floppy disk or CD-ROM, Sometimes you had to fax things into the Japanese government because their systems had never been updated, and that was the media they had to use. And a couple of years ago, they decided that they needed to eliminate this and modernise, and so they went on what was called the War of the Floppy, and they announced this week that they've won. They've got rid of all the regulations requiring these things because the systems that rely on them have been
Updated.
eliminated.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're now using, God, I can imagine a USB drive would be a radical departure
Well,
for
you can
them.
only fit 1.4 megabytes of data on a floppy.
Well, I would imagine that a lot of these systems probably didn't use very big files, and that's why they kind of hung around. But can you, I mean, they haven't. Even Sony was the last company to make floppy disks. They haven't made any since 2011.
Yeah.
You know what? I do have. There is something quite satisfying about using a floppy disk.
Oh, I know. I remember all too well.
Yeah, it's a very physical medium, but obviously it is way too small for modern stuff. I mean, you couldn't even get a smartphone picture on a floppy
Well, you would
drive.
need, like, for just this episode of TechFan, you would need 100 floppies.
Yeah.
And that's after you've broken it up into a whole bunch of different pieces. I mean...
I remember installing things like Windows 95 and
Floppy
Word for
after
Windows.
floppy.
And you would literally have a stack of 32 floppy disks,
Yeah.
and you would put them in one at a time as it ran through the installation procedure. So when we got to CD-ROM, it was like, oh, wow, this is so much easier.
Yeah, almost magic. You're like, holy crap, this is amazing.
But apparently there was 1,900 different types of submissions to the government that required either floppy disk or CD-ROM.
Crazy.
Until January 24, when they finally managed to get rid of them.
Yeah, that's when regulation gets a little bit out of hand. You gotta. It's kind of ridiculous. So
Well, in look, in government, what you have to do is you have to fund the replacement system. That's what it is, and that's
Yes.
what it comes down to. Is that government systems tend to be old because if they work and they're reliable and they allow people to do the job the public want them to do, yeah, it's a big deal to try and replace it because government IT system development is often not trouble-free. It's expensive. It takes a long time. And then when they actually deploy the system, very often it doesn't work as well as the old one.
yeah,
Plus, you've got a whole transition cost as well, where you've got to keep two systems running. So actually, it's not cheap or simple to repeat. We just think, just load up a new piece of software. It's not like that in government. And so, yeah, there are lots of decisions that have to be made. Do you keep the old data? Do you migrate it? Do you transform it? Do you archive it? Do you delete it? All of these things need to be decided upon, and one thing civil service and governments aren't very good at is making these sorts of decisions. They have to go through a lot of review. So all of these things take a lot of time. I think it's actually quite impressive that the Japanese government has achieved this in 2 years, because it just shows that if you have somebody who decides something must be done and you put the resources in place to have it done, then even government can do something quite quickly.
I mean, you look at what happened during COVID and how relatively quickly, we got a vaccine.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
we went from
when
vaccines
humans,
taking... Yeah, we went from vaccines requiring 10 years of development to delivering one in, 10 months?
Yeah. It just shows you that human ingenuity has not been lost. We can still do great things when we want to, and we get out of our own way. The problem is the latter, getting out of our own way. Way too often, politics come into it, religion comes into it, all the stupid crap that truly gets in the way of true innovation and moving our species forward. And the more we can get to that as people, the better the entire planet will be.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of having my own Japanese government moment at the moment, because I have a lot of stuff, and I'm moving, and I don't want to move all the stuff. I certainly don't want to store all the stuff at the new house. The new house is much bigger than where we are now, but I don't want to have all this stuff around me anymore, because much as I love it, talking about floppy disks, I have quite a few floppy disks and drives and computers that can use them, and they all still work, and I love them. I really do. But the reality is, I don't have time to use any of this stuff anymore. So just holding on to it is just, much as I like it, and unless I can put it out where you can see it, I can't even do that. Most of it's in boxes. So I'm really taking the view that over the next couple of months, I'm going to have to sell on a lot of this stuff and really kind of simplify my tech life to the stuff that I use on a regular basis. Because I just don't want to have to just be moving from house to house with all of this gear. So that's what I'll be doing, and I'll let you know how that goes as it goes on.
I'm looking forward to, yeah, you've got a lot of work coming ahead of you, and I don't,
you don't.
I could say things I can't yet because it's not public knowledge, but
yeah,
for the time being, I don't envy you having to pack up. But you just did it within 10 years ago? You've been in this house 10 years?
Yeah,
it hasn't even been that long, has it? Because I remember the problem.
It's 9 years. Yeah, it's 9 years.
You bought this house and moved into it while we were still doing TechFan.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we've been doing this now for 14 years. I keep thinking we've been doing this show for 10 years. Yeah, it's 14 years. Wow.
14 years, yeah. Yeah, it was nine years ago, just over 9 years ago that I moved into this house. And to be honest with you, for me, I would stay here. But the problem is it's no good for my wife. And to watch her struggling to get up the stairs every evening in pain because there's so many stairs, and she's just not good with stairs anymore. Yeah. You gotta
do what's right for your family. That's what it comes down to.
That's exactly it. And so, she's even said to me, she said, I'm really surprised. I think the tipping point was we had some rats in the kitchen. So we had to deal with those. And I think for her,
somewhat in the kitchen?
Rats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We had some rats living behind the kitchen cupboards.
Ooh.
Yeah, because, rats are everywhere, and our house is right next to a big kind of wooded area where lots of wildlife lives. So, it's going to happen.
You could have just bought a cat.
Well, we've got a dog. The dog never noticed the rats.
Well, dogs are not predators like that. You need a cat.
No, I know, but you'd think they'd think the dog would at least hear and smell them, and maybe
he did. He just didn't care.
Maybe. Yeah. But to be honest with you, there are people on the estate who have cats and they still have rats. Because I think
that's because they feed their cats. Stop feeding your cats and they will eat the rodents right now.
Maybe. But I think as well the natural selection has bred rats that, all the rats that are afraid of cats and don't know how to escape from cats have all been killed, and so the ones we've got left are the ones who are smarter. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Anyway, that was kind of the tipping point for her. At that point, she'd been thinking about maybe the house wasn't suitable for a while. And when that happened, she said, look, I'm going to start looking. And she said to me, I'm really surprised because I thought you'd be very anti this. And in fact, you've been very accommodating. I said, look, because seeing you in pain, move around the house, I'd be some sort of monster if I turned around and said, well, I can't be bothered to move. So that's kind of what it is. We do recognise it's a huge amount of work. And but the advantage we have is that in 9 years, a lot of the stuff we move with, we've never unpacked. It's still...
Well, that's the stuff that you just
and that's the stuff we're just going to get rid of. Yeah,
right. If you've had it for 9 years and it's still in a box, it's not important. I mean, obviously, if it's photo albums and stuff like that, you can't toss.
We're going to have to go through it. There is sentimental stuff. There's stuff from when her mother died.
But it can't be too sentimental because it's still in a box.
Well, yeah, but I think this, when you've got that much stuff, the stuff you forget you own, and so some of it you might want to keep, some of it you won't.
I get
that. We are going to have to be ruthless and go through and get rid of the most of it.
I'm way down for that.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that was cluttering the house, it only took us 2-3 days to get rid of all of that. So the house is actually looking quite good at the moment and quite usable, which will help when we move to the new place.
So this is David's excuse of why he won't be able to do a show in a little while here.
Well, the excuse last week was we had people coming around the house, and it was good. It was good effort because it sold straight away. Yeah. So that was good. Now with all of this thing is up in the air until the contracts are signed, things can go wrong.
Well, that's the thing.
So we'll see how things go. But
don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
But we've got to get off with the cleaning up anyway because
no question.
Even if this falls through, then we'll still be doing it because the need has not gone away.
Right, because you're still buying that other house regardless.
Unless that falls through, and if that falls through, we'll have to buy another one. So as I say, unless Leanne wakes up tomorrow and has been miraculously cured, then unfortunately that's the way it is. But you know what, it'll be a change of scene. The place we're buying is a little bit more rural than where we are, and it's detached, so you're not living on top of people like we are here. It's in a nicer area than here in terms of the locals, because we're in Salford, which is has areas that are quite criminal and drug ridden and that sort of thing, and we're not that far from those, so we'll be moving away from that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good just to get a change of scene. Quite apart from the inside of the house, it's just so much more suitable.
Absolutely.
The living room has a bar in it, which is
goes with our Geeks Pub.
Yeah, exactly. So and it's literally going to be a Geeks bar, because I'm planning to. I will have some. Well, I'm not a big alcohol drinker. I will have some drinks there. I like the occasional beer and that sort of thing. But I am planning to use that effectively as my computer nook. So I'm going to have my regular computer and stuff like that in there, as well as having access to the drinks. So that should be nice.
That'll be cool.
Alexander has already asked me for an external room that he can use as a Twitch streaming studio. I'm not buying that.
No. So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of TechFan. We'd love it if you guys sent us feedback. It's theshow@techfanpodcast.com. Make sure you go to techfanpodcast.com for any show notes. We don't generally do a whole lot of show notes and links, though. But you can go to YouTube, look at My Mac on YouTube, and you will find our latest episode. The picture it's not video, but you can at least have it playing in your web browser and going about your business. David, as always, good to talk to you, and I'll see you next week on the Geeks Pub.
See you then.